a game. Been through the flame, now get out the way. Whole lot of change, still been the same, put that on the name. I had to go through it just to get to it, look what I became. Elevate, level up, way to the top, headed to the peak.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Star Motivate You. I'm Glenda Baker, and here's my host, Star Singletary, and Joshua Jones. We're really excited tonight. We have my good friend and executive producer and producer, Steve Owens, on the show. Thanks for being here, Steve.
Glad to be here.
Okay, Steve, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Been in Hollywood for 30 years as a talent manager, as a talent agent, as a producer of television, executive producer on films. I was one of the top 5 program directors in radio in America for 3 years. And I started my own radio station at 12.
Wow.
Great.
That's amazing.
Steve, you have quite a resume. You're a producer and an executive producer. What are some of the projects that you worked on?
The latest project that I was involved with was called Switched Up, which was one of the opening films for Southwest this year. It's a rom-com, but I've also worked on real TV for Paramount. I was at NBC, Rye Television, produced several TV series for them. And I try to stay active. I actually got another one that I just signed on to with a buddy of mine, Randy Turow, who is actually responsible for Lawrence Bender, Quentin Tarantino, Adam Sandler. And we go back to, I did one of his movies. I actually did the music for Adam Sandler's first movie.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Adam Sandler, he's a really nice guy. I met him in Vegas. He's very cool.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, him and his wife, they came by, and I literally walked with them to the sports book, and he was just like the nicest person. I got to ask you, Steve, do you prefer being a producer or executive producer?
Well, honestly, it depends on the project. If it's obviously if it's a big budget movie, I would rather be the producer, a better chance of getting an Oscar. But for example, like on Switched Up, I was in an EP, but I wasn't the financial EP. I had a tendency to go into movies as an executive producer who actually does quite a bit of the same roles as a producer, but doesn't have the day-to-day responsibilities. For example, I found the casting directors for the movie. I found a couple of the stars for the movie. I sent them choices for music for the film. So it just depends on the project itself. The one that I'm attaching on to right now is also for one of my former clients that I represented, who I love to see get an Oscar nomination for a short. So it just really depends on the project itself. And also if anybody's paying me too.
Of course. Money always talks, that's for sure.
Could you tell us more about the Switch Up film? Like what networks it may be on?
Well, it's actually in the process of being sold right now. It's not on a network yet. It is a rom-com. It's a story of a well-successful TV producer, arts on-camera guy who hits the rocks, and he falls in love, and the typical love story that happens. So it's a cute movie, and obviously it had to do well, otherwise it would have been the Saturday night opening pick for Southwest. So.
Okay, that's good though. That's good.
Steve, how did you get into the entertainment business?
Into movies or into everything general?
Everything in general.
In general it was for me at 12. I talked my dad into buying me a radio control board. Mm-hmm. He found one real cheap and then I built a transmitter, and I wrote every record company telling them to send me records, and they did. I'd get 200 to 300 records a week delivered to my house from my little one block radio station, and so I got a vast knowledge of music from that, and then I went into professional radio. But one of the things that was a real motivation for me was I actually had a high school speech and debate teacher who told me, when I got up and read in front of a class, I wasn't comfortable reading in front of a class. And she said in front of the class, "You'll never make it in radio or television." And that was my motivation to become the top in radio, which I knew that I could, and obviously becoming one of the top 5 in America. And then when I landed a role on General Hospital, I sent back a letter to the school saying, "I want to thank Mrs. Garnell for telling me that I would never make it in radio or television. I have." And she was still teaching there, 30 years later. I feel sorry for the kids.
Wow, that's actually a really inspiring story. Besides TV and film, you have 43 platinum and gold records.
Yeah, 43
Wow.
platinum and golds, responsible for breaking a lot of different artists, and also artists moving them forward in their careers. I got to work on "In the Air Tonight" by Phil Collins, Senior VP of Atlantic Records, Vince Faraci at the time. Called me up and said, "We can't figure out why this is a hit." I'm like, "You got one of the greatest drummers. The drums need a pump, pump, pump." And Criterion Studios out of Miami actually sent me a reel to reel on it, and they sent it back the next day with the changes, and I got what I wanted. I fought with I will not say his name, but he was the president of Columbia over Journey. He wanted to push him as a rock band, and I found the album that he sent me an advance copy before anybody had it. And I started playing Open Arms, and I pushed it to number 1 on the charts. And he screamed at me every name in the book. But about 6 months later, he gave me 7 platinums for breaking Journey as one of the biggest pop acts of all time.
That's so cool.
That's great. That's great.
Very cool.
Would you ever consider looking to work with songwriters, any new songwriters or musicians?
Actually, at the process right now, my business partner from London, Jerry Howson, who used to be Dionne Warwick's manager in the 80s, we're launching 2 new record labels. One is a pop urban and the other is country. No rap in the labels. Weekend, Ariana Grande, Taylor Swift, Drake, that kind of sound. And we're creating a very large management company that has, I wish I could tell you the names, I'm under NDA, but they're very, very big players. One of them was the vice president of 3 different labels. The other one's was a manager for one of the top 5 guys in town. Another one handled when I say the biggest rock name of all time, one of the biggest. There's only 2, 3. So that's who's going to be a consultant. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to have about 10 A-list managers who are going to they're going to groom younger managers because they can't get in the doors to the big boys. And they don't necessarily have to be signed to our record label. They could go to, Interscope, Republic, whoever they wanted to go to. The managers can. But we want to be able to bring back the music business like it was in the 70s and 80s, where artists were really developed, not a 4-week record. 4-week records do not make artists. If you look at the money that's been spent on Drake and the money on Taylor Swift and Ariana Grande, Selena Gomez, The Weeknd, those records were developed as A&R records. And there are very few artists that are actually in that state anymore. And that's what we want to really bring back. Plus, we're also going to be producing movies that we're going to be showcasing the artist in a climatic scene in the movies. Because the one thing that if you go to a movie theater, you sit down, you're watching a movie, and all of a sudden you hear a song that's in this moment that you just really love. When you leave that movie theater, you remember it. So you've got 2 senses that have been hitting on you. So we're very excited about that. We've got about 30 A-list producers that have been talking to us about wanting to come aboard. We're under NDA on quite a few name artists that want to join in. So we're really excited about it. And, it's what's interesting is in my career, I started at 12 as a DJ, and then I became an actor. Then I became a talent manager, and then I became an agent. And in between there, I was running Akon's company, Hit Lab. And then I was a consultant with Akon's Hit Lab. So I'm kind of going full circle on everything that I've done, bringing it to come to where mesmerizing records and media is going to be, with the knowledge to be able to bring in people that fit into the pie.
That's good. Did you enjoy working with Akon?
Pardon?
You said Akon?
I did work for Akon's company. Yeah, Hit Lab.
Steve, how do you go about picking your projects? How do you choose them?
On a movie, I read the script, obviously, from being a talent agent and talent manager. I'll break it down. First of all, I'll see, do I think it's a realistic project that's within what the producer's budget would be? Because a lot of times you'll look at something and there's 120 different locations in something, which that's a $50 million movie. So locations are one of the keys to really look at a script. How many characters are in the script? And does it, just like music, does it grab you in the first 10 pages? And in music, it's the first 10 seconds. Does it grab you? So those are kinds of things. And, if somebody has somebody attached on the film, that is an absolute plus, provided that they have some value. For young producers, they think that, I'd rather not spend the money and just put Joe Blow in there. Well, if you spend a little extra money and get somebody with name value that, for example, like may have overseas, then you're going to be able to sell your movie overseas, where they may not be a movie star in America, but they could be a movie star in other countries. So look at those kinds of things as you're putting together a cast. If you're spending $200-300 more, it's better to hold off a few weeks and find that extra money to pay those actors to come in. Or you go and hire a great actor to come in and do one day that's name value, and you can put them above title on your movie, provided that they'll agree to be above title on it. Then you have a value that you can turn around and go to a distribution company and say, hey, I've got so-and-so in here. And also, if you can find crew, people think, well, I just got to hire somebody who doesn't have any kind of credits for movies. Well, there's all these big name people that are out there that are willing to do movies. It's the one that I'm talking about right now that with my buddy, he's it's a short, but it's a nice budget on it, 100 million. I mean, not 100,000, excuse me. And we're talking to have the writer come in who's an Oscar winner, sound being Oscar winners. These people need to work too, because of the way the economy's been here in Los Angeles. People have to work. We've gone through 2.5 years of no opportunities for most of the people in LA. And it also has had effect in Atlanta, in Nashville, and New Mexico. So it's a buyer's market. Actors, you can now get name actors for less money because they have the house payment, that they need to make. Whereas an actor may have been $200,000 2 years ago, maybe $25,000 now for your movie.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It is really interesting. Can you tell me what is one of the coolest people you've ever worked with in the music industry?
It's actually not an artist. It was actually I have two, and both of them were mentors to me. One is Charlie Miner, who passed on. Charlie was a senior VP of A&M Records, and he really taught me the ins and outs of the music business. And he was a true mentor to me throughout my entire career. He was not afraid to call me up and say, hey, don't add this record. It's not going to go anywhere. And he was very honest with me on, as I was programming radio. And the other one was Ken Cragen, who unfortunately passed away this past year. I had the opportunity to work with him on We Are the World and Hands Across America.
Wow.
Which are two iconic things that happen around the world. More so the Hands Across America. I was in talks with him about being involved in Hands Across the World until he passed away this past year. So those would be two that really, are important to me from where I standpoint. Yes, I mean, there's been many of artists that I've sat down with. I enjoyed sitting down with Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin, and Michael Jackson bring me backstage, to talk to him. So I mean, I've had the career of meeting all the music stars that I've ever wanted to meet. And it's, you also look at people on the way up. How can you help them? And that's one of the things that I try to do every single day on my Instagram, is that somebody will send me something, whether it be an actor or a musician. I'll answer at least one of them a day. I'll listen to their music, or I'll give them some advice on their career in acting. I always guide women in the right direction, give them advice about, producers, what to watch out for, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So it's karma. I was fortunate to have great mentors for me on my way up, and now it's my turn to be the one to give the great advice.
You've always done that for me. Anytime I've reached out to you and asked you anything, you've been there to help me. So I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't expect anything in return from people on it either. So
I know you don't. That's what makes you such an awesome person.
What does it take to be successful in the entertainment industry and in the music industry?
Honestly, it takes networking. Too many people are lazy, that they don't want to go out and network. I've always, one of the things that I did to advance myself in the entertainment side was Sherry Lansing, who was a former president of Paramount Studios, was having a charity opening up the Hollywood Museum. And I saw that as an opportunity to be able to network. Not only did I get to network, I got her Rolodex to call all these producers and be on the phone and actually introduce myself, saying, hey, make a donation for the Hollywood Museum. It's a tax write-off kind of a thing. And so I look for those kinds of opportunities. I'm going to one, a great guy here in Hollywood puts on one, Jeff Gunn. It's called InfoList. And, it's great for actors because, I think it costs them like $25 or something, and $15, something like that, to get themselves photographs. And I mean real photographs from Getty Images, Wire Image, top photographers in LA to walking the red carpet. And you have to build that up. People don't realize the importance of that. When I was at NBC, my office was right next door to the PR department. And every day I would see them through the glass window, looking at Getty Images. And finally, one day I asked him, I said, well, we make a list to see who's coming up, and then we send it up to casting. And so, there's all eyes on that. And now it's not just Getty Images, it's also Instagram. Instagram is, everybody says TikTok, TikTok. Most of the casting directors don't have time for TikTok, but they're going to go through Instagram. And the advice I would give to an actor or a young independent producer is comment on a producer or a casting director that you like. If you go watch one of their movies, and you say, wow, that guest star was great on it. And then just put a little note into the casting director saying, I just saw this was so great. So-and-so was incredible. But don't pitch yourself in that DM. Don't pitch yourself at all. The mistake that young actors make and young musicians are, they'll like 10 different photos of you, and then they send you their latest demo reel or their latest song. Well, that's not getting to know the person. And that to me says, you're just trying to get me to listen to it. And I don't listen to them if it's been done that way. And I know most of the casting people and most producers won't spend the time. But if you start to follow somebody and you become their fan and you're commenting on it, they're going to become aware of you. Then 2 months down the road, just drop them a line. What advice can you give me on such and such? They'll be more than glad to give that advice to you. Because it becomes a kind of scenario. They've seen you. You've been nice to them, commenting on their page over and over and again. And, it also for an actor, it takes anywhere between 6 months to a year to get into most casting rooms. Because there's 5,000 submissions that go out for every role in Los Angeles.
Wow.
Every role, 5,000 people for one role. So you got to think that you've got to find ways that you can be known to the casting people.
Right.
So what I always tell newer actors is move to Nashville, move to Atlanta, move to New Mexico. The pool is smaller. You may only have a competition of 500 people in some of those cities.
Right.
Instead of 5,000 and 5,000, 3,000 have done guest stars and making $10,000 a week, and you're going to try to compete to get that role from them. It most likely isn't going to happen. So, take advantage of where you live. You don't have to be in Los Angeles anymore. There's so many movies that are being shot everywhere around the United States. Only 17% were actually shot, according to the LA Times, in Los Angeles right now.
Wow.
That's great advice too.
Thank you.
Steve, when did you want to do music and film for the long haul film?
Music, it was obviously when I was 12. It's always been in, the passion of it. Going from radio. I was honestly, I was fortunate on the film that I did the music supervision for Adam Sandler with Tarquin Gotch, who was the music supervisor of the John Hughes movies, Breakfast Club, 16 Candles. So I had a great mentor in that, but it wasn't something that I really had the passion for. So that wasn't it for me. I got into the Akon company through Eddie Wendrick, who used to be the president of Epic Records. He knew me from back when I worked in radio and said, "Hey, do you want to come to work with me at Akon's company?" So it's always been there. Both of them have always been there. I mean, I wanted to be an actor when I worked in radio, and I ended up getting the jobs. And I actually called all the presidents of the record labels and said, "There's only one talent agency my mom knows, and that's William Morris. Call them and make a call for me." And because of what I've done in the past, they picked up the phone, and William Morris was my first talent agent. So I got very lucky. I a different road than 99% of the people in Hollywood. But with that point, I didn't work much. Let's put it that way. Because the way the big agencies work is it's based on what your dollar value is.
Mm-hmm.
You got Tom Cruise making $20 million a movie, and I'm making 500. Who do you think they're going to go to? I'm in the pecking order of like 20 down the list, if that, probably 50. So, whereas a medium and small agency is really where a newer actor needs to be. And even a younger producer getting with a younger, management company or a younger agency that's not in the top 10, you will get more attention and actually build your career because they're willing to invest the time in you. They're also willing to take the phone calls with you and talk to you. And one of the advice that I can give to actors is if you do get an agent, buy them a pizza, take them bagels, take them out to lunch, send them a Starbucks card. The small little things people don't realize is that an agent is basically working from 9, 10 o'clock in the morning till 7, 8 at night. And a lot of times you don't get to eat because you're too busy trying to get a job for an actor or a director or a crew, whatever. Mm-hmm. And that little gesture is something that an agent's going to remember all week long. Oh yeah, let me submit this person because they're going to have a mental thing in their head that, wow, they really helped me out. They brought me food. But when you do bring the food, just say, "Hey, I know you're hungry. You guys work all the time. I just want to send you something of gratitude."
That's really good advice. We want to know something. We want to know, have you ever worked with Kirk Franklin?
No, actually, Kirk and I had been friends about 10 years ago, and then I recently ran into him. I was invited to the BET. Basically, it was the For Your Consideration party. And we got to talking again, and it was, great to catch up with him. He is an incredible music person, lots of knowledge. He's doing incredible things for BET Plus, and I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Would you ever consider working with Miss Pat, the comedian?
Oh yeah, she's a character. I would love to work with Miss Pat.
Yeah, she's an amazing person, though.
She is. She's extremely funny. I mean, we were sitting talking at the BET event, and she had me rolling. And she was talking to the president of the television network, and just messing with his mind.
Oh, Steve,
She'd
have
actually
you?
be great with Kevin Hart, to be honest.
She
Oh,
would.
yeah.
That would make a great duo.
Yeah, that'd be nice right there. Any great life experience changes?
Well, the changes for me is that I've always looked at it. Number one, going back to Michigan, where I'm originally from, that I saw people. Everybody had the same pattern of life. They go to school, be the football player, cheerleader. They went to college, they got married, they had a kid, and then they prepared to die. That wasn't for me. I wanted to experience life, and I moved all over the United States working in radio. And then I wasn't afraid to lose everything to try something new that I wanted to learn. And several times I have done that. And that's the only way that if you don't take risks, you don't get to accomplish what you want in life. And, yes, you can have the straight ahead life and, make a great living, but are you happy? There's never been a day in my life working that I didn't think it was fun.
Oh.
And when it stopped being fun, that's when I said, okay, let me try something else.
Right.
Love that. If everybody did that, the world would be a happier place.
However, I will say that there were some times with Top Ramen, so it's not all glamour.
Have you ever encountered any difficulties like throughout your journey with music or with actors or film producers?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You run into you build an actor's career up. They're making $750,000 and somebody steals them away. And that's, it's pretty hard when you lose, clients that you really put a lot of attention into. Another thing that is very frustrating, I've never had a problem with A-list actors who are making big money. I used to represent Anthony Michael Hall, and he would literally bring in a check to me, hand it to me before he even cashed it. He had enough money in the bank account to be able to do it because they were big checks. But newer people say they turn around and they spend the money and they don't pay. And that's, they'll never move forward in their career in that, because what they don't realize is that it's a small town, LA. It really is a small town. And word gets around, another agent or a manager will call me. So what do you think of this person? Well, they still owe me money. They had to pay commission, and they don't end up getting an agent. And I'm not, if somebody screws me out of money, I'm not going to tell one of my friends who's an agent, go sign him. I'm going to tell them the truth. And that's, it's a small circle with agents and managers, that loyalty between us.
Yeah.
And that's good, though, so that way they don't get screwed over or messed around.
Yeah. Fortunately for me, it's always been small ones, but I know people that have lost $100,000, clients not paying them money, and they turned around and they spent it. So,
wow.
So it's, and people look at it, well, why do I have to pay 15% to a manager? And I kind of look at it this way. You go out to a restaurant and you spend $200 and you're paying 15% on your meal, and that person's only working maybe 15 minutes. Your agent has just worked 4 weeks to get you that one job because you didn't close the auditions on the other ones, and you're complaining about 15% on $800.
Yeah. That's a good way to look at it. I think a lot of people don't think of it like that. So I think that's really important for the actors to take that in.
I don't think they see the whole work the agents have to go through behind the scenes to get them deals, I guess.
You know, and it's not, from an agent standpoint, the owners of the agencies, it is not cheap to run a talent agent. You have to pay breakdown service. You have to take the casting directors to lunch. You have to take the producers to lunch. You have to have an office. You have to pay for a bond. There's a lot of expenses that go into a talent agency. And it's the one thing that actors don't realize, how much money comes out of a pocket of an agent. And usually in the first year, an agent doesn't recoup their money that they've invested into an actor. So, you know, it takes the second year before they start to recoup, because the talent needs to get to know who they are. And the percentage of auditions that they're going to go on, nobody goes in and closes everything they go in for. And if they do, I wish I had those actors, because I'd be rich. But no, that's one of the biggest problems. And if I can give some advice to actors, really, is every no is one step closer to yes. And if you can really remember that, and even with the record business, you send out to 25, record companies, that's 25 chances getting closer to a yes. When you do get those rejections, go back and look at it. What could I have changed? That was the one thing that I did in my radio career, was every single day I taped when I was on the air. I would go back and re-listen to my show. And I'd go, oh man, why did I do that? And each day I would work at improving on that. And that's what you have to do with the auditions. And that's when you will grow as either a musician or an actor. Well, I was just mentoring a singer out of Italy, who is Rolling Stone magazine Italy said she's going to be the next major superstar. And I told her, you're rushing in the song. You need to slow it down, and you're stretching some of your words in the thing. And I said, this is what you need to change. And I pulled some references, and she came back the next day. My God, I'm in love with how I just redid the vocals on these things. So be open to make changes. Don't always do the exact same thing. I taught a series regular only class. I had 30 some series regulars in there. David Faustino from Married with Children, Hill Harper from LA Law, Law and Order, Matt LeBlanc from Friends, a lot of great actors in there. And the reason that I set up the class and I brought in young independent producers was the independent producers never got the chance to work with real actors that, knew exactly what to do. And the series regulars had a problem. And the problem is they wanted to play the same character when they left the TV show and they went into something else. And the reason is the security that, if you're getting a check for $50,000 a week, do you want to change it and take a risk? No, you want to try to stick with the same character.
Right.
So it was an opportunity for them to learn that they could break out of that mold. And it was a great thing that I was involved with.
I think all of that's very good advice. We love to end the show. You already just kind of ended the show for us. Maybe if you could give some music artists some advice on how to get to the next level in their career. Just something quick that maybe we could end the show on. Just a little bit of an additional tip.
Spend an hour a day on Instagram, because the key thing you have to remember, you're in show biz. That means show your business. And if you don't show your business, nobody's going to know who you are. And being a record label owner, it's important to know that you have followers, because every follower is a potential person to like your music and follow you. And if you're not doing the work, well, why should a record label do it? And then also, don't send 10 copies to an A&R person. Send no more than 2. And it's not because we don't want to hear it, but you want to be able to get a meeting with an A&R person. If you send so many things to them, there's no reason to set up a meeting. With 2, it says, all right, let me get on the phone. Let me have a conversation with this person. And that's what you want to do. But every day, if you're in the pop, urban field and or country. The target is 18 to 34-year-old women. They control the listening habits of radio. How many times, ladies, have you been in the car and you picked the radio station?
Right.
All the time. That's all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, the guy never gets to pick the radio station.
Nope.
Especially if he's on a date with the person.
Exactly.
So, think about that as your audience.
Okay.
Not just the sexy women that are out there. Go to all different kinds of women. Go to all different kinds of ethnicities, because all different kinds of ethnicities will like your music, unless your music sucks. So, if you have a solid hit, do your reach out there. And with the people on that, also go to, if you say you sound like Drake, go to Drake and look at the people who are commenting on his page. Well, go to that person who's been commenting and comment on their page. So you start to get their followers as well.
That's really good. That's really good advice, Steve. Well, we hate to end the show because we really enjoyed having you on here, Steve. It's been a pleasure getting all your advice and helpful tips for actors and musicians. We're very thankful that you came on this show, and we look forward to talking to you again, hopefully in the near future. Everyone, please go to Steve's Instagram page. Check him out, Adam, under Steve Owens.
Mr. Steve Owens.
What's it say, Steve?
It's at Mr. Steve Owens.
At Mr. Steve Owens. Yes, go check Steve's page out. Please do so. We're really excited about next week. We've got Tig Maddock on the show. He's a musician, singer, writer, businessman, and it's going to be a great show. So we hope that you guys will tune in again next week, Sunday at 7:30. Thanks. Have a good evening, guys.
Fantastic. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Get in your lane, stay in your lane. Wait, this ain't a game. Been through the flame, now get out the way. Whole lot of change, still been the same. Put that on the name. I had to go through it just to get to it. Look what I became. Elevate, level up, way to the top, headed to the peak. All them boys wanna talk, hit them out of law, but don't got receipts. I do it with ease, to you it's a burning.